Great. Well, thanks everyone for being here. We're going to wait just a couple of minutes for some other folks to file in with us here today. So we'll get started shortly. Now, is the FRANKIE4 office, like where in Brisbane are we?
We're in Indooroopilly, so we are northwest of Brisbane City. Yeah.
Up the road from our flagship store in Indooroopilly.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. So
There's
can
a
you
hill.
walk between the stores then, between your headquarters and your store?
You can, but it's a steep hill. So
We'll take you later.
yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Well, we'll get started here. First off, I want to thank everybody for joining us here today. My name is Mitch Gruber. I work for the Klaviyo team. I've been with Klaviyo for about 8 years now. Started out with working out of the Boston office with the Klaviyo organization there. Have helped scale this business and then recently move out here to Australia to help build out the APAC team. So worked with probably over 1,000 different brands to help them power up their digital marketing strategies and hopefully help them take advantage of their data in that way. I'm so excited that you've all joined us here today. And what we're here to do today is a little bit of a behind the brand story with the FRANKIE4 team. And if you're not familiar with Klaviyo, we're a marketing automation platform that helps brands like FRANKIE4 to power smarter digital relationships with their customers. And so the premise for today is we're going to spend a little bit of time diving into really how to build loyalty with your customers. And then when we do that, hopefully really boost a lot of the ROI that we have and can pull out of those experiences as well. So I'm going to kick it over to Nancy and Beck here to kind of introduce themselves.
Absolutely. So I'm Nancy. I guess my background is I've spent sort of the last 9 years shaping customer experiences, building brand loyalty across a couple of different industries. And then in the last year, I've joined the FRANKIE4 team, looking after CRM and loyalty, which is super exciting. And Beck and I work really closely together.
Yeah.
I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you. Well, I'm Beck. I've been with FRANKIE4 for a little over 7 years now. I've moved through a couple of different areas within the business, all of which are amazing. In my experience at FRANKIE4, I've spent about 5 to 6 years in the customer care team. So really getting that kind of hands-on experience with our customers and getting to talk to them, get to know them, and now bring that experience into the CRM role, which is great.
Which is amazing.
Well, awesome. I'm so excited that you're both here with me today, and thank you for taking the time out of, I'm sure, your busy schedules to kind of chat through some of this with us. FRANKIE4 is obviously an iconic Australian brand. You guys have now gone international as well, and so I'm sure plenty of folks on this call are very familiar with what you guys do. But maybe for the folks that are either just hearing from you for the first time or maybe have never even heard of you before, maybe give us a quick rundown on what makes FRANKIE4 so special and so iconic.
Yeah, well, you're right. We are an iconic Australian female footwear brand. And what makes us different, I guess, is our unique blend of both comfort and style. So we believe that they can both exist together in footwear. We are a podiatrist-founded brand. We're based here in Brisbane, Australia, now operating out of North America, New Zealand, and Australia. We have patented footbed technology in each and every pair of our shoes. So our Soul Hero footbed features arch support, heel support, and forefoot cushioning as well. So you're, getting support and comfort through every step that you take in the day. But our shoes are also really fashionable. So we are a fashion-forward business, but we don't compromise on foot health.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Amazing. We have to be comfortable and stylish.
And look good.
All
Yeah.
at the same time, so that's incredible. Well, I'm really excited to kind of dive into how you guys think about customer experience and interacting with your customers and spreading the good word about both fashion and comfort all at the same time. So Klaviyo ran a bit of a study a couple months back, and just to look at like where are brands like yourselves focused for the year. And so one of the big things that we saw coming out of that is about 80+% of marketers are really expecting competition to increase in the year of 2024 and into 2025, and I imagine footwear is likely no exception. But then as we kind of dove into that about how did that affect the priorities of where they were spending their time, their investment, and their money, kind of came out about 3 different categories. So 72% really highlighted attribution and trying to understand where dollars go and more of the acquisition side of things and where to spend their money. 48% said, hey, retention is really important, but then also 42% said that order frequency, so how often people are actually coming through and purchasing, was kind of a buy shoot of that. So I would love to understand, are you guys seeing something similar? Maybe Nancy, this is a question for you, of like, are you guys seeing something similar today, and how are you viewing the kind of market conditions?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, all of those are priority for any sort of business. I guess for us, we're, no exception to, cost of living pressures. And I guess what we're sort of seeing in this environment is, when customers are considering purchasing any product, especially footwear, the first consideration that we've seen is quality as first and foremost, and then following that comfort. And thankfully, those are really intrinsic in our brand values, our brand focus, all throughout our DNA, comfort and style.
Yeah.
And so for us, we have the luxury, I guess, of doubling down on retention and engaging our existing base and through our own channels. And then when it comes to acquisition, really tapping into our existing community. We're so driven by advocacy within that community. So many women love us. And so even within our existing database promotions, really structuring referrals out of that has been super powerful. Beck's worked on a lot of referral campaigns within our promotions.
Yeah, we like to scale our word of mouth through referrals, so running campaigns like giveaways. Recently in January, we hosted a giveaway which incentivized referrals, and we actually saw over half of the entrants were through or off the back of a referral, and the majority of those were brand new to brand.
Are you finding that giveaways tend to drive more top of funnel? And then I guess are you guys the goal to then convert those folks into hopefully brand loyalists as a result of those giveaways through word of mouth?
Yeah, 100%. So when we talk about structuring and really tapping into the power of our advocating brand, and then bringing new customers in that way, and turning them into loyal FRANKIE4 customers, it's such a cost-effective way for us to acquire new customers when all sort of retail businesses understand the cost of acquisition is just getting higher and higher. And so for us, where we have loyal advocates already who love us and know the quality of our product and our values as a brand, having them sing our praises has been so powerful for us. I guess, even us as consumers, if we go to buy something from a brand and they tell us they're really great, that's good and well, but somebody else telling us, who's been a customer of theirs, telling us is even more powerful. So we've really seen that come through.
I'm absolutely a victim to that. If someone says, you have to buy this, yes. I go, oh, okay, I'll spend the time and absolutely look into it. So I know that well.
Yeah.
But I guess with a little bit of backdrop on the market and kind of knowing that those are super successful channels for you and the FRANKIE4 team, what are some of the biggest growth opportunities that you're looking at in 2024? Maybe what are some of those kind of pillars that you're really running towards?
Yeah, we have recently branched out to the US and New Zealand markets, so really focusing on growing those markets, engaging with the audiences that we have there. We are obviously a little bit more of an established brand here in Australia, so a lot of our customers really know the behind the scenes of our brand and why we do what we do. So kind of going back to our roots for our US and our New Zealand audiences, and really allowing them to see us for who we are, why we do what we do, why we love, providing the blend of comfort and style.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I mean, our core sort of audiences, we started really strongly in like health professionals and teachers, a lot of professions that are on their feet all the time, and they completely understand our comfort. In Australia, where we are really established, we're moving more towards even like a fashion-forward younger audience. And so we're really building on those audiences, and that's a longer-term, growth within our database for us. And then I guess, like Beck mentioned, we're in our newer regions, like North America, like New Zealand, where we're still emerging as a brand, and we're really educating those audiences about who we are, really leaning into what was really effective for us in Australia to start with, and diving into sort of those audiences who are on their feet all the time, women who are standing all day, every day.
Yeah, very often on quite hard, unforgiving surfaces. So
yeah.
It's such an interesting spot to be because it's almost two separate life cycle stages of a brand, right? It's almost a little startup-y and some of these newer regions, and then you're reached a point of maybe some more maturity here in the Australian market. So how do you think about where you spend your investment and your resources, and then how is Klaviyo factored into those decisions? How have you been able to use that to determine where to spend your time?
Yeah, I guess for us, it really, again, almost wearing two hats when we're thinking about different regions, where we're highly established and where we're in new regions. But ultimately taking it back to the customer experience and what will improve and optimize that customer experience. So thinking about channels where we've organically been really successful in Australia. We grew through social media very originally, through a few key ambassadors, and then now we're just diversifying and trying new channels, bringing Klaviyo into that mix and engaging and growing our existing database and our own channels. And in different regions, tapping into what makes sense for us. So in Australia, really focusing on a fashion-forward audience as well, and building on those new audiences. And Klaviyo's really helped us be able to, I guess, personalise and not isolate our existing audience. And then in, I guess, emerging regions, like North America, like New Zealand, really tapping into that education piece, everything about our amazing patented footbed, everything that comes and makes us unique as a brand, and why women should buy our shoes over anyone else.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so important. I imagine there's just such different mindset as you go through it. And so it's really important to, I love how you're saying, we understand the customer experience, but then starting to put that in the context of, have you heard of us before? Have you never heard of us before? Because it's going to be a different brand experience.
Yeah, and I mean, they keep constantly adapted messaging through Klaviyo, depending on our audience. Yeah,
I mean, we are able to kind of test new campaign ideas, promotions, things like that through our Klaviyo audience. They are, an owned audience, and see how they perform. And if needed, we can adapt before we go to paid channels or other channels.
We'll get more into the Klaviyo stuff here in a few minutes, but so FRANKIE4, for those of you that maybe don't know, sells both in-store and online. And so I think one of the challenges that a lot of brands face is, how do I build the right tech stack? How do I have the right tools to help us scale and to grow? And so I'm hoping you can kind of walk me through the journey of how you've built a technology stack and maybe how you've gone about that process to date.
Yeah. Sorry, Beck, did you have something?
I mean, all of the decisions we make with our tech stack are very informed. We like to make sure we're doing our research and the programs and platforms that we're bringing on, integrate well with each other and, suit what we need. We haven't been with Klaviyo forever, but we really were at a big growth phase and we needed, something bigger and something that could help to support us move into the next step. And, we did our research and Klaviyo was kind of, the platform for us, and we wouldn't look back, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess, a lot of our tech choices, we go back to consider how they would integrate with each other. Like, Beck mentioned, ultimately we want to remove as much friction as possible for the customer and create it to be as seamless an experience as possible through, whether a customer's coming and visiting us in store or if they're coming online. And vice versa, or both, making sure that we understand where they've been with us and how we're talking to them in that way.
Yeah, seamless for the customer. I think also for us on the back end, it's so much easier having minimal platforms that all integrate so well with each other rather than having to, cause friction, like you said, with lots of different platforms.
Yeah, 100%. And even, when we think about we've run recent warehouse sales where there's like a physical location as well as like our in-store, and then also the online component. And if, continuous to talk about Klaviyo, but Klaviyo allows us to really be able to speak to those different audiences and really clearly identify who's who and how we want to speak to them.
Yeah, we do a lot of, geo-targeting based on, have customers purchased in-store before, whereabouts are they located, can we target them with in-store messaging, and that helps, to tie the online experience with the in-store experience and make sure we're going out to customers with messaging that's relevant to them, where they are in the world, in Australia, and if they're local to our stores or if they've purchased in our stores, and really customise the journey for them. One
of the conversations that I have on a very regular basis with brands like yourself is, look, the customer doesn't know the difference, right? Their experience is a brand experience, and so we often think about how should technology augment and support that and not necessarily hinder, right? And so I think lots of brands are thinking, should I get the right tool for that specific experience? But sometimes we lack the context of how does that maybe feed into the wider customer experience, because sadly it just takes one bad experience for that customer to turn around and say, I'm off it. This isn't for me anymore.
Yeah, and it's if I think of even myself as a consumer, going to a brand, I want them to know that I've been in store and tailor it to me, but not be very intrusive about it.
Yeah, of course.
It's a fine line for us. But we want everything personalised, but we also want
we want to do what's right
consideration.
For our customer and for our brand. So
absolutely.
And you guys talked a whole bunch about Klaviyo here a minute ago, but you guys haven't always been on Klaviyo, and so I'm curious, what were maybe the key things that made you say, hey, this is kind of worth it, and we feel like this is going to be a growth engine for FRANKIE4 that influenced the decision to move over?
Yeah, I think, like I said before, it was we were in a really big growth phase, and we needed to, move on to something that was bigger and that could really power our email marketing and most recently our SMS marketing as well. So we've migrated our SMS through to Klaviyo recently, and that in itself has been a huge benefit.
Game-changing.
Yeah, absolutely game-changing for us. Yeah. We're able to now, I guess, see how our SMS campaigns are performing in comparison to email campaigns, utilising SMS within our flows, whether that's abandonment flows, welcome flows, in-store kind of post-journey flows, things like that. So it just made sense, I think, for us. It was a no-brainer.
And even in our most recent sale, we've seen that our SMS year on year has doubled, which is amazing. And I guess even if I think about the gold tech standard, with the likes of Shopify, with the likes of Klaviyo, there's just so much support available for us as well. It's so easy to always 11th hour idea. Is this feasible? Running to our amazing CSM Cat, or Klaviyo support, help desk articles everywhere.
Yeah, there's a plethora of information and support. It's even though look, the platform itself, it's very user-friendly, but there are always little things that pop up that you think, I just want a second opinion on this, and being able to reach out to the support team. I was online with them at 5:30 this morning, so it's I think is it 24-hour? I think it's fantastic. So
it's just like an ongoing live chat for us.
Yes, they're probably getting sick of me, to be honest.
Not back again.
That's great. Well, I'm happy to hear that you've had an amazing experience. That's hopefully what we try to deliver. But Beck, I want to go back to one thing you mentioned earlier, which is we want to interact with our customers where they're at, and kind of whatever channel they're interested in or wherever they're purchasing. The FRANKIE4 team recently integrated your point of sale data into your marketing and in with Klaviyo specifically. Talk to me a little bit about what that's either unlocked for you or what that's maybe allowed you to do that maybe you didn't have before, because I think a lot of the folks probably on this conversation with us today maybe have a couple of physical stores and are trying to balance the experience of purchasing online versus in-store and how to tie those together.
Yeah, definitely. One of the key things is we can geo-target. So when we have, warehouse events, we recently had one in Brisbane, we were able to look at our audience that was, within a close proximity to where we were hosting the event, and go specifically or target specifically to that segment. Also, in-store styling events that we've hosted recently, we looked at our VIP cohort. So not only localized segments, but also looking at purchase history, spend, products that the customers have been, browsing and being interested in, and creating a segment that we could then, promote this event to, so that it was relevant for them. I think as a consumer, a bit awkward when you receive a message from a brand that's like, oh, we've got a warehouse sale in Melbourne. Well, I'm in Brisbane.
Yeah.
Like, I can't
100%.
take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So it kind of clears up any of that, you know, funny communication, and yeah, allows us to use the data that we have, you know, browsing behaviour, purchase history, sizing, demographic, you know, all of the above to really just, customise our communications to customers.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
In such an easy way as well.
Yeah.
Like so we ran exclusive in-store styling sessions, and that was quite literally like a hallway conversation. It's like, oh, do you think we should do this? How many people do we have that might be interested in this? And it was so straightforward. It was a couple of clicks.
Within like 2 minutes, we had the exact number. We knew who we were going to be
minute.
communicating with. And even then, sometimes if you do have a little bit more of a difficult segment that you're trying to create, Klaviyo, I think, has recently brought out an AI tool where you can essentially like plug in that hallway conversation, tell the AI tool what you're looking for in this segment, and it will create the definition for you, which, you know, that in itself is very easy to do, but if AI can do it for you, that's even better.
Yeah.
And how do you track customer feedback on that? And we'll get into how do we track metrics and attribution here in a minute, but a lot of those are like just really interesting experiences. So how does the FRANKIE4 team measure and think about, was it a success, was it not a success?
Yeah, I think for us, we're constantly wanting to hear customer feedback, you know, specifically through events or even just on our product in general. We are very, very vocal about our reviews. We've got more than 100,000 five-star reviews. And I don't know the total number of reviews, but predominantly 5 stars.
Yes.
But good and bad feedback is what we constantly want to hear. And, you know, even as a brand and internal culture, our design team are constantly wanting to understand, you know, where the product is really amazing for a customer and where it can be improved, and then constantly optimizing even our physical product as well as the customer journey as well. So, you know, constantly getting feedback through customers.
Yeah, I think that the reviews piece is a huge piece for us. Like Nancy said, it's not only the positive reviews, but also the ones that are a bit more constructive that we need to hear. But yeah, I mean, we are able to utilise those reviews in our, you know, marketing efforts, whether it's through emails and SMS or through other, you know, paid channels and socials and things like that.
And even if I think of like our most recent in-store styling session, our designer hosted one of them.
Yes.
And she said herself it was so insightful because she was there with, you know, a really intimate setting directly with our customers and could hear direct feedback on, you know, what they loved about certain styles and, you know, where it wasn't as comfortable in certain styles and where they preferred a different shoelace colour or different things like that. And so, like, internally just really constantly hungry for that feedback.
It sounds like that almost guides where you guys go next.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's fascinating. And I think one of the things that we think often about at Klaviyo is how do we create authentic experience? And I think that's such an important piece of that, of how do you take feedback from your customers and use that to just, I think, create authenticity and have people say, I really feel like they listened to what I was saying.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for us it's really like, again, taking as much data that makes sense for us to understand the customer more and tailor our product and their experience to them. I guess even if I think of, you know, we talked about omni-channel experiences, adapting for, you know, where they've interacted with us, where they are in their journey as well. And so, you know, not just hitting them with a whole lot of our brand items when they're new to us, really nurturing that relationship, building it, taking care of them, and then, bringing them along the journey to get them to a place where they become, you know, part of our community and loyal advocates of women.
Definitely advocates for the brand. So
yeah, and even like on the back end, if I think of data, for the customer experience is highly important, but even for our ourselves as a business, you know, that data really supports our stock management, it supports our sustainability efforts. We're able to, you know, talking about the POS data, see really deeply into, you know, I guess, customers with their certain size ranges and particular products that might not be restocked, we can sell that in a really sustainable way, where normally we wouldn't go to like our entire base with that.
Yeah. I mean, if we've got stock that is plentiful, we can, and in a certain size or size ranges, we can utilize the data that we have both from POS but also just from Shopify online, and kind of target the customers that have maybe purchased or added to their wish list in that particular size, and we can go to them with those stock holdings that are a little bit larger, that we're trying to shift.
Yeah, and it's, I guess, mutually beneficial for both. It's relevant for that customer, and it supports us as a business who, I guess, sustainability is a real focus for us.
Yeah, I know sustainability is a huge focus for the FRANKIE4 brand, so that's huge. And I guess, have you played around? Is there specific channels where you find that works better? And I know you guys have been indexing a lot into SMS, but we often think about that as kind of a point in time communication where there's maybe some urgency or there's, it's a very specific message. Have you played around with using those channels?
Yeah, I think that email marketing is probably a more commonly used channel. We like to utilize SMS as a little bit more of a VIP nurture the audience kind of channel. We don't want to flood customers' SMS inboxes. It's a little bit more immediate and direct of a channel. Nancy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, like you mentioned, they're our real VIP audience. They've placed a lot of trust in us. I feel like we've spoken about how we only allow a handful of brands into our SMS inbox. There's not too many that we'll allow in our lives, and when we do, and we understand that they've allowed us into their SMS inbox. And so we really want to make sure that we don't break that trust, and we're continually nurturing that relationship in a way that makes sense.
I think what you just said, Nancy, is super interesting, where we only let a very select few brands specifically into I guess our inbox or into our phones. I mean, it's such an intimate experience. Yeah, and I guess I'd never thought about it that way until you brought that up earlier today, and I think that was a bit of a switch in the back of my head. So it's a channel that can very easily go awry, but if done well, it's a very intimate and very one-to-one experience. And it sounds like you guys have done some really interesting stuff to try to build that trust with your customers.
Yeah, 100%. Where possible, we try to personalize it as much as possible, so that it makes sense for the customer. And we constantly bring it back to, what would I like to receive?
Yeah. I think a big piece of that has been testing that. How do you know what is right until you're testing it and you're seeing the results? So, we do typically prefer to use SMS for our bigger marketed campaigns, promotions, things like that. Maybe new season launches, but we also have, recently really integrated them into our flows as well. So again, whether it's an abandon journey, post-purchase journey, a welcome journey for the customer, looking at where in the flow it makes sense to be communicating through SMS, and then using A/B testing directly through Klaviyo to look at the different kind of copy that we're using, which is performing better, what are customers clicking through more, and then after the click through, what are they doing? Are they browsing product? Are they purchasing? Are they going into store?
Definitely.
All right, maybe a hot question here, but what percentage of things that are sent out via Klaviyo by FRANKIE4 are A/B tested?
Oh, I
think we spoke about this, and not as much as we'd like. We definitely want to do a lot more of it.
Yeah, I don't have a direct percentage, but I think we're, in a way, relatively new to the whole A/B testing thing. We have done it a lot, and we do it across emails, whether it's testing send times, testing subject lines, sign-up forms, thank you. In flows, again, testing the copy that we're using, but also the timing between messages. Some customers might go through a certain journey where they're receiving an email and then an SMS. Others might be the opposite, and they're getting their SMS first and then an email. So, percentage-wise, not too sure, but more. We want to do more.
Beck did do a really interesting A/B test on our sign-up forms in the US, I believe.
Yes.
There was the welcome pop-up.
Yeah, so one of our pop-ups, or our welcome pop-up that we have on our store, we were looking at whether it interacted or whether customers interacted better with it when there was imagery, our beautiful product imagery, or no imagery. And what we actually found was that on mobile, for us and for our customer, the version that had imagery performed a lot better, whereas on desktop, the version without imagery performed better. And, who's to know that? You know, it's quite random. But yeah, it was an interesting one because we didn't expect to see different results across desktop and mobile. We just thought it would be the same, but
it
maybe
wouldn't
not.
have been our assumption. So
No.
It's been so important to do, and obviously we want to do a lot more of it.
Yeah, definitely.
That would not be my assumption. I would have said the complete opposite. I would have said imagery would have been way better on desktop, but apparently
100%.
not.
And I think the other thing, coming back to what we were saying before with, having to wear these different hats across our Australian, North American and New Zealand markets, that may not be the same for AU and New Zealand. So we're actually currently testing that same form through Australia and New Zealand to see how the results differ. And it may be that we implement something different for each of the 3 geos. It might be the same. We'll just wait and see.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting because as you guys mentioned at the very start of this conversation, it's like almost 2 different playbooks that you're running right now. So if you can't kind of test each individually, it's going to make it really hard to keep going. So, I think measurement's really interesting when we think about, and this is probably the age-old question of every marketer in this room is like, how do I know where my dollars were spent? Was it successful? I'm not sure. Was it good? Was it bad? So how do you look at that, and how do you guys think about that kind of question of attribution?
Yeah. Well, through Klaviyo, it's very straightforward. We do a lot of looking at data through Klaviyo immediately after campaigns. We're a very data-focused team. We're looking at data daily, weekly, monthly, etc. So we're looking at it all the time. I think for me personally, I do spend a lot of time looking at open rates, click-through rates, and then going into our flows and looking at the journey and where customers are engaging and how they're engaging.
If I even think of like broader channels that we go through, so we obviously have our own channels and have a lot of insight through that, but even like our paid channels, out of home, we're constantly trying new channels and new platforms. We've recently invested in like TikTok, Pinterest, bit of podcast advertising,
a blog,
launched a blog. Just always trying organically and paid. What might work for our customer and how we tailor our content and messaging through those channels for that specific platform. And then, on the back end, how we measure each platform as well. I think we can't measure every single channel the same. They're not really apples for apples, and we have different purposes for investing in different platforms. And so for paid social, if we think of that, we're wanting sort of an instant conversion and uptick, direct them to our website or our product page. But if we think of a more brand awareness piece, we might go out of home or potentially on, through podcasts. And so really tying all of our measurements and ROI for each channel differently, and tying it back to, what the objective of that channel overall is, and then what the objective of our specific campaign was at that time.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And one of the metrics we look at Klaviyo heavily is what we call KAV, which is Klaviyo Attributed Value. Spot quiz, do you guys happen to know how much of your revenue comes from Klaviyo?
I feel like Kat's probably mentioned it to us.
Yeah.
But do you know, Mitch?
Surprise, I do. I think you guys are somewhere in there all about 25 to 27%. Was when I last looked. Coming from Klaviyo.
Go us.
Go FRANKIE4. But I guess off of that question, so since you brought SMS and email into the same platform, how has that helped influence? Because that's a conversation we have often where people think those are almost 2 separate experiences, and it sounds like you're starting to converge those into similar. How has the attribution changed by having that all in one platform?
Yeah, well, even, like we mentioned, our recent sale, year on year, our SMS has already doubled in ROI. In terms of integrating it, we've really seen it through our automated flows, able to sort of time where we speak to a customer through email, where it makes sense, where we can potentially speak to them on SMS for more immediate action. Whereas previously we didn't have that visibility, having them on 2 different platforms. And so being able to be in the one place, yes, we can do separate campaigns through each channel and completely understand where they sometimes do need to be separate, but very much so being able to tie them in together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Beck, you listed a whole bunch of metrics earlier between open rates, click rates, and flows and individual things. If you had to pick 1 or 2 metrics for the rest of time that you had to look at, what would they be and
That's
why?
a tough one.
Oh, I love click-through rate because I feel like it actually shows you that the customer's not only opening, an email or whatever it may be, but they're actually wanting to see more. They're wanting to go back to your, whether it's your website, a blog post, a social media post, anything like that. So click-through rate is definitely one. And then I think revenue, ROI has got to be the other one. It's
100%.
key.
And again, we can see that quite easily on an individualized basis through our campaigns where our customers have clicked. And even, I guess, mid-sale, we've pivoted on content, where we've seen unexpectedly a customer's really loved a specific product, and then, we can hear that in our next communications, or even target those who've clicked through on that. And so on an individualized basis, having that immediate data, and then really being able to gauge what the customer's needs and wants are, and adapting instantly.
So yours would also be click-through rate. And would yours answer change at all, Nancy?
It's very random, but I love seeing the engagement through desktop or mobile. It always, I just have this internal bet with myself. I'm like, this one is mobile. And I surprise myself.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
It's a good one to look at, actually.
Super interesting. So many
That
sales.
would be my third.
I like this. That might go to my number one. That's so cool. Well, look, I really appreciate you both sitting down and spending some time, and we'll start to kind of wrap up here. I'd be curious, what are maybe, a couple of things that you would want to leave this audience with as just areas to spend their time, right? Areas of investment for them, and maybe what are some of the biggest areas of opportunity for retailers like yourselves to build loyalty and boost ROI?
I'd say for me, it would be to diversify, your marketing mix, constantly try new channels, new platforms. Like we've already spoken about, we're diving into TikTok, into Pinterest, started a blog, just being really open to new channels and trialing different content through those mediums.
Yeah, and I think off the back of that, like you were saying before, Nancy, recognizing that those different channels that you are trialing are going to perform at different rates, they're going to grow at different rates, so not comparing them like for like and expecting them to both have the same or all to have the same growth rate or engagement rate, whatever it may be. And I think the other one, which we have a pretty big focus on, is personalization and using personalization, using all of that data that you're analyzing or receiving and, making the most of it and allowing customers to have tailored experiences based on, we've spoken about it all, age, demographic, location, browsing behavior, purchase history, and just kind of using the data that you have to in the way that's right for your brand.
And I think it'd be remiss of us to not say capitalize on your existing loyal base. We have found so much success in those who are already advocates for us and loyal to us, singing our praises. And so through reviews or through referrals has been so powerful and successful for us as a brand. So definitely tapping into that.
Yeah, I think you opened with word of mouth was was so important. So I think it's appropriate that we wrap up on that. Well, I want to thank you both. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for spending the time, taking time out of your day to have this conversation with us. I've learned a ton, and it's been an absolute pleasure sitting here with you both.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for having us.
And I'd also like to thank everybody in the audience for attending today. I hope you took away at least one or two things that you'll be able to implement in your business, in your brand, and maybe learned a thing or two. So we'll wrap up here. You can head over to Klaviyo.com to find out more information about this session, about Klaviyo in general, and you'll also be getting an email that will highlight all of the information, everything we talked about here today as well. So again, I really appreciate everybody attending, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.